There we go. So Amazon. Amazon has reformed, completely evolved how we do retail. Not only do they change how consumers demand products when it comes to convenience, they've even changed how brick and mortar stores start to evolve their business from a digital landscape. Amazon Go is one of those pieces that we'll start to see roll out, and you're even starting to see that happen in Whole Foods all across the country, where it's the mobile phone. They don't have cashiers, they don't have POS systems, and that's slowly going to expand as we continue to evolve in the digital landscape. But a lot of the pieces of knowledge that Amazon knows is what their customers buy and how they can predict those pieces. And the one thing that's great about analytics and knowledge is creating that predictive measurement to be able to understand what your consumers are going to buy. Yes, you can see year-over-year trends. Yes, you can see growth patterns. But what your consumers are going to buy and the consistency that they're going to do it, and how you can actually engage them in a personalized manner. I thought this was I went to a presentation a couple months ago, and they gave this presentation about Amazon and how membership is not only driving more trips per month, when you look at a typical Amazon shopper versus a Prime shopper, and then even looking at a Subscribe and Save shopper, but the basket size is slowly starting to differ a little bit. Subscribe and Save is more kind of focused on the CPG, so you're talking about toilet paper, paper towels, and such. But I thought this statistic was really important, is that as you see Amazon continue to grow and tap into the brick and mortar retail space, they're starting to really steal trips from brick and mortar stores outside of what they're doing. And this is very impactful, not only across all of retail, but also for you guys as independent liquor store owners, is that it's very impactful to understand that people are starting to go online. They're starting to shop more. They're starting to buy more different categories that typically they weren't buying originally. So this is one of the pieces that we saw. Computers and accessories were a critical piece in what they were actually doing online as far as volume. And alcohol was about 2%. But once they made the Whole Food acquisition, that completely changed their growth dynamic. It not only started to expand in categories where they were lackluster, but it also showed that alcohol was a completely different growth of 14%. One, because it added a brick and mortar location, but two, it also gave them distribution centers as they start to scale. And as you guys have, I don't know if you guys have heard, but in Florida, specifically in Miami where I live, is they're starting to do, Amazon Go is starting to do, or Amazon Prime now is starting to do 2-hour delivery, starting to roll that out in Texas, and that's going to continue to expand.
He gave me an answer, but they can't see the screen. Sorry, technology. I just
I'm having Connor post the slides and send the link through chat.
Okay. Sorry, this is the way it is. Hopefully you can still hear my voice, but we will definitely send the presentation out to you guys. I apologize for that. So just kind of understanding how their market share has completely changed as they've acquired Whole Foods, but what it does for what it does for the alcohol category specifically, and how that changes the dynamic a little bit more. And as they're starting to expand into the world of Drizzly, as they're starting to expand in the world of Saucy a little more, and using that convenience measurement and distribution to be able to drive impact in the store. So should Amazon effect matter to alcohol retailers? Of course it should. And the reason why it should is we're starting to see a lot of statistical analysis come through of how on-demand online ordering is continually growing. 90% of retail growth in fast-moving consumer goods came from digital alone, and e-commerce being the driving force behind that. We're starting to see on-demand alcohol delivery services reach about 103 million in 2017, and that's only going to increase in 2018. We're seeing grocery orders increase. We're seeing direct-to-consumer online sales reach 410 million, and we're seeing specialty retailers increase drastically. More players are coming into the market. But where this is beneficial, specifically to the alcohol category, is estimated over the next couple of years, online alcohol sales will be $7 to $15 billion. It's just showing how fast this dynamic is going. And personally, and I look at I've worked in different CPG categories, and one of the crazy things that I've seen is I think that alcohol beverage has actually been slow adopters. They've taken time due to some legislation and some of legal concerns being 21 years older. It's taken some time for us to really start to evolve, and not only in the e-commerce world, but shipping and delivery and convenience and pieces like that. So to see this number, it shows that people who didn't raise their hand of not selling alcohol online, I think that's something the piece that you should definitely start looking at. I'm not going to go into the nuances of what you should do from an e-commerce perspective, how you should integrate a potential partnership with an on-demand application, or set up in-store pickup, or have delivery yourself. If you want to talk about some of that pieces on how to get that started, I'm happy to share that with you on the side. But I think that's a big piece for you guys, especially as things start to change here in the state. But the question that I constantly comes to my mind is a lot of store owners have consistently kind of understanding what they can do in the store, how set up merchandisers, how they can position products to cross-sell, but how do you use that knowledge and be able to transfer that to online? And really be able to understand what's happening in my store, how to position, how to optimize my inventory, how to make sure I'm moving product in and out of the shelf, and working with your distributors to be able to do that as well, making sure programs that we used to build for Heineken and pieces like that are working within your store as well. So I came up with kind of 3 ways for us to be able to do that. And I didn't want to go into the weeds a little bit on some of the tactical pieces. I wanted to kind of make sure that these pieces are something you can kind of evaluate in your current strategy, or a strategy that you want to evolve into, and be able to start implementing immediately. And one of those pieces is first kind of understanding who your consumers are. This is kind of the core foundation of 3x3 Insights, and how we kind of understand consumers from a shopping level and a receipt level. And we'll go into that a little bit further. The second one is taking the understanding of the consumer journey, understanding consumer behavior, using that in a personalized experience, or personalized engagement. And we'll talk a little bit about engagement there as well. And then the last part is convenience and fulfillment. Being able to truly meet the demands of consumers, not only from the perspective of making sure you have live inventory on your website, or making sure your shipping service has that fulfillment and has that live inventory active. But second, just making sure that people have access to you, have access to the ability to be able to watch their product come from the door or come from the store to their home, and making sure that they're able to see that and track that and have that full convenience. And I'll talk a little bit about that. So first, kind of understanding consumers. I think the most critical piece out of all of this is making sure that you kind of understand the experience and understand your consumers. I always like to show visuals when it comes to a consumer journey. This is actually somebody who, a close friend of mine, and I'm like, you know what? When the next time you go buy wine, tell me. I want to kind of understand what your process is. So Jessie is 26 years old. She works as a marketing professional, not in Denver, I don't know why she's Denver, but basically she's on her way home. She's looking to cook dinner. She wants to look up some wine. She goes, she looks up recipes. She's trying to find something that's going to go with a meal that she's liking. Then she wants to figure out, okay, what type of wine would go with the dish that I want. So she finds the type of wine that she wants. She goes to a map, finds a local liquor store, or maybe somebody that's on her way home that she could pass by. She leaves work, she heads into the store, she has the mobile application, or she has it online, and she goes into the store and actually shows the agent what she wants, and then they guide her through the store and she picks it up. She goes home, snaps a picture of Instagram, says, hey, I enjoyed this glass of wine, enjoying this food pairing, hashtag foodie. And then she goes through the process of receiving, did you love it? And this is one of the pieces that's very integrated, is the fact that not only did she go into the store, somewhere that she's loyal to, that she is signed up to a loyalty program, but she did receive a feedback on that. And what's great about it is because it was a new product that she was exploring. It was a new product that she took home. And the reason why they're able to truly be able to deliver a feedback loop, or be able to have that email on asking how it is because they were able to understand their behavior. Understand that this was a product that didn't sit inside of her category set, or didn't sit inside of her past experiences. And it allowed them to be able to understand and say, this is a new product. Let's see how that experience was. And is that something that you can continually market to down the road? So when you look at the journey that your consumers can potentially go on, there's kind of a multitude of touch points that they can do. It could be your website. It could be social media. It could come from word of mouth. It could be an experience that they've potentially gone to, whether it's a music festival that they had an experience with a spirits brand or a wine brand. It could be an experience inside your store where it's a tasting event. And did that lead to any type of impact inside of your store? It could be mobile or it could be voice assistance. I'll cover a little bit of voice assistance a little bit later in this presentation. I won't dive too deep, but understanding that digital and technology has completely evolved, and these are the type of new disruptive pieces that are kind of not only inside the home, but also are going to matter when it comes to here as well. What's great about these is, and I'd say going back to the word knowledge, is that these consumers are leaving digital footprints everywhere they go. If you're being able to have a lot of these pieces, whether it's web, search, social, email marketing, experiences, mobile, if you're able to provide understanding and have analytics available to you to be able to track them across the full spectrum, we're able to do a lot more with that. This is kind of a quote that I thought was interesting. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And not only from what they do on a digital side, what they do inside of your store, and why that's impactful. This is a product that we recently launched a couple months ago that have been kind of working across the country just for independent retailers with. It's our 3x3 data bar program, or platform. And why this is critical is that it's an analytical program that not only tracks the movement that happens inside your store, but we're also able to look at local markets within your neighborhood as well. So why is this critical? A lot of retailers that we've spoken with have been using their POS data for many years. They've been seeing the depletion data that's kind of come through their store. They've been able to kind of see the movement of products and stuff like that, but they're really not able to break down a few things that are very characteristic. Purchase behavior. If you don't have a loyalty program, you're not really able to look at the purchase behavior of your consumer. Going back to Jessie a little bit, kind of understanding the fact that this was a new product that she bought. It may have been inside the wine category as she's a continual wine purchaser, but it was a new product that she was exploring. So we were able to not only follow up with an email with that, but we were able to really get her feedback. We're also able to see if Jessie wanted to walk in that store, what other type of products is she walking away with, basket trends. Was price sensitivity a matter of how she purchased her product? Was she buying for a special occasion, or was she just typically buying in her price tag? Was it a $9 bottle of wine, $11 bottle, whatever it might be? Was there a promotional impact there? Let's say one day Jessie walks into the store and she's trying to try a new wine or try a new set, and there's a tasting that happened that day. Did that tasting impact anything, her purchase behavior? Did she go and buy it automatically, or did she come back the next week and buy it, or did she come back a month later and buy it? Being able to track that and follow that. And then time of day, kind of understanding how that repetition changes over time. And what's critical about this is being able to leverage analytics, not only from your marketing and what you do online, but also the analytics that happen with your customers is critical, because you can make business decisions based on that. You can stock certain inventory. You can provide promotional impact a little bit better. And you can optimize your product a little bit better that way as well. Again, there's a lot more that goes into this. We do have a few of our sales team members here that will happily walk you through this. This is actually a free service that we give to independent retailers. We don't charge for this. And the reason why is we're really focused on building a network of independent retailers across the country, understanding that Amazon, Total Wine, legislative changes and pieces like that continue to change throughout the states. And having a tool like this allows you guys to understand your consumers better and gives you the tools to be able to compete. Personalize the experience. So now that you understand your consumers, we want to be able to take that a level deeper and be able to actually engage with that. How do I get the right product in front of the right consumer to drive to experience that leads to sales? Split. So kind of the power of personalization, understanding that you can't treat every consumer the same, going back to Jessie, understanding that if they would have treated her a specific way, saying, and now started to send her emails or promotional emails after she made a purchase of that product, understanding it was a one-time purchase, it may not be relevant to her. You may lose them a little bit. And some statistics here, 74% of online consumers get frustrated when content isn't relevant to them. So making sure that the purchase behavior is not only tracked and understood, but then personalizing that communication. And some of the pieces that you could do to be able to personalize that communication is simply just personalize it to them. Say, hello, Brad, or hello, Jessie. those are the small things that you could change inside your email marketing or e-commerce system to be able to simply do that. And then if you're able to understand their purchase behavior, take that and be able to evolve that into, okay, I'm seeing that she's buying categories, she's buying in the white wine categories. Maybe I want to push her up into a $15 bottle of wine. Or maybe I want to put her into another category as well where I'm seeing there's some consistency and overlap. So being able to do that a little bit, you can generate individual landing pages and drive them to it. So you're starting to funnel your consumers into a specific direction. This is used in a lot of kind of sales tactic pieces. You can let them know about promotions that are relevant to them. You can keep your customers updated on product info. So if there's a new white wine that comes to market, or you start to see them trend into canned wine, you can kind of see a lot of that start to evolve a lot specifically. Another piece that we have at 3x3 Insights that will be rolling out towards the back end of this year is using the data that we get from 3x3 Data Bar and using it to engage your customers. We always get the question of, okay, now I have these analytics and now I have these insights. I can kind of understand my trends. I can see my sales volumes. I can see how customers are starting to move the needle, but how do I reach my customers? How do I engage them? How do I create that experience that I continually bring them back into my store or bring it back into my online website? And there's a few pieces that does this. Not only one, are we able to put an entry point on the website, not on the website, but actually inside the store where we can capture it. But we can also weave into your loyalty program as well and be able to use that and create an activation tool that's personalized specifically to what they're receiving. So if we were to, a week later, we understand Jessie is potentially looking for wine maybe on a Wednesday night, we can send her an offer and drive her back into the store or drive her back online to be able to do that. And the reason why we're able to do that is we can look at Jessie's history throughout time and be able to understand when her purchase patterns are, when her price sensitivity is as well. And last but not least is convenience. Looking at Prime Now, looking at Drizzly, looking at Minibar, we kind of understand that it's changed the demand of consumers. And convenience will influence your consumers' buying behaviors, understanding that if consumers can't order online or your inventory is not correct, it's going to really change that experience for the consumer. Having that fulfillment, being able to purchase it on an occasional basis, and having that reordering opportunity as well is critical. Making sure that they get reorder online if you do have an e-commerce website or pickup store and functionality that's saying they're coming home. Having that convenience gap closed and doing that in a way that's consistent across the board is going to be extremely important. And this was something that I was mentioning a little bit earlier, is about having that inventory updated as best as you possibly can, making sure that if you're working with Drizzly or you're working with on-demand partners, is to make sure that inventory is accurate, making sure that they have the opportunity to track their delivery and pickup locations and incorporate shipping costs in that as well. Being as transparent as you possibly can will definitely help elevate the experience and make sure that people are kind of understanding how their products are going to go, how much it's going to cost to be able to ship it. And then one of the most intriguing pieces that I constantly get asked the question about is, how is mobile voice really, or mobile and voice assistance really going to change the behavior? I think Amazon is doing it more specifically at a retail level where you can reorder specific things. I know Google is doing it where you can add to the shopping cart as a way to remember. But some of the brands as well, I know Johnny Walker is doing it from a recipe side, but other brands are really starting to tap into this as well. And this is going to not only expand how consumers are searching for products, but how immediate it's coming to them. And how it's going to not only integrate into Drizzly and other shipping components, but it's something we definitely need to watch out for and something we need to be able to do. It's a lot harder at the scale that we are as business owners to be able to really tap into that, but making sure that your Google business listing is accurate, make sure your address is accurate, make sure your website is consistent on there, making sure that you are optimizing for search. So what do you mean is products that you are selling in your store is available to put that into your Google listing as well, because that's going to be critical pieces when you speak into a Google Home or when you speak into an Amazon, those are going to be things that you want to make sure that are optimized for as well. Just to kind of recap, I know I'm kind of keeping it at a very high level a little bit, and I didn't want to go too deep into the weeds specifically on some of the tactical pieces, and we can do that if you would like. But one of the biggest things is just making sure you kind of take into the basics of analytics, whether it's your website or whether it's what's happening inside your store, really having the ability to understand what your consumers are doing, products are going to, what categories they're going to, and using that information to make business decisions, whether it's optimizing or whether it's promotion pieces as well. Taking that information and using it in a personalized communication plan, looking at what you're offering right now and making sure that you're doing the small things that will definitely help them, and make sure that it's relevant to them so you don't lose them in any type of communication. Making sure that all your channels are consistent. So if you're posting on social, if you're running a promotion, making sure that message stays consistent across the board so the experience is good. Same goes if you're working with on-demand platforms as well. And then incorporate your digital, or incorporate your brick and mortar store into the digital experience. Make sure you're focusing on trying to bring them back into the store. I know, people are wanting to order online and that number is going to consistently grow, but you have the ability to be able to be more engaging and more interacting. When they're inside your store, you have that personal touch that not only can help drive bigger basket size for you, but still creates an experience that they're going to remember. Where digital is not as personal as you'd want it to be. That's kind of a lot. I know I kind of threw it out there and I touched on certain pieces, but maybe we have a couple questions, or if not, I'm happy to answer anything on the side. All right.
Do you really
Brad,
believe
were there
that?
any
Hold on.
questions online? Sorry, were there any?
I'll have to look.
None yet.
Do you really believe that online sales is gonna just jump for everyone?
I mean, for all categories or
Yeah.
for alcohol, for beverage alcohol?
For beverage.
It will to a certain extent. Again, I use the word experience and convenience to be very critical, but I think it's going to be state by state. It truly depends on how those pieces grow, how the experience and how you can use those pieces. One of the examples I was talking about the other day is you can't really grow baskets when it's online, which is not true. I mean, if you cross-sell accordingly and you have somebody sign in and you use their purchase history online, you can easily cross-sell and continue to grow baskets. If you deliver content and stay relevant and stay personalized, you're still going to you're still going to enhance that experience with the consumer. But it's still taking time. I still think, when you look at CPG as a whole, it's we're still starting to get there. Everyone tends to go to Amazon first, and they haven't touched alcohol as much as they are potentially going to do in the next couple of years. But everyone seems to go there first. I mean, they own 46, 47% of the retail market. But for alcohol, it really depends. I think it will. I think everything will slowly be there. Look at what's happening right now with clothing. Macy's is shutting stores all across the country and going into showrooms versus more of an experience in store. It's different category to category, but we could definitely see it going there. The number may be a little bit inflated, but it will be there.
Yeah, that was nationwide number, right? That wasn't.
Yeah. Inherently, we're at a disadvantage because we have brick and mortar stores. I've never really walked into an Amazon store, so they don't have all those built-in fixed costs. So, I have both Drizzly and I have a website. My website orders are 5 times my in-store basket size. So, but if you look at it, you want to try and drive those customers to your store, whatever it takes. You have to compete with the digital people, but somehow you have to make those people get out of their car or come in your store, walk through your door and do something that they can't get online. And so because our rents are going to be higher, everything we have we have employees, you know, we have wine people that make a lot of money compared to that on an order.
Yeah, some of the best experiences I've had was when I just went out and they had a pop-up tent and you could just sit out there and you can engage with a brand. But more importantly, you can just engage with a store owner. I think it was 3 or 4 years ago, I used to know the store owner by name, you know, but that's changed a lot. You know, I personally don't order alcohol online. I probably use Drizzly 4 or 5 times in my life. I like the experience of walking into the store and exploring. And I think that exploratory nature that consumers still want and demand. I know that's kind of hard given now with grocery, but Total Wine and then Amazon with Whole Foods, that's going to change a little bit because with grocery, it's kind of a full experience. It's that stock up trip. But I think when they look for an experience and they look to explore, they look for that recommendation. They look for that personal touch. So I use that word personalization lightly, but I still think it's a very critical piece to be able to do what you're trying to do is really get them in store. And doing that through understanding them. If you can truly understand when we look at some of the data through DataBar, we can really kind of understand consumers and kind of see purchase behaviors. And that's one of the biggest things too, is if you guys run a promotion, I know it's already cutting into your margin for that. If it's a retailer promotion, making sure that that's driving impact long-term as well. And you can do that through experiences.
I mean, Walmart's really struggling with their last mile program. You know, if anybody read Mark Brown today, you'll see that, you know, there's still plenty of opportunities. I'm not sure that all is well in that world, even though they would like you to do everything. Their ticket programs are struggling.
Yep.
So there's still plenty of opportunity.
Yep.
Let me offer a consumer perspective because I do drink, believe it or not. And I don't have a retail liquor store, but like most people, I'm pretty addicted to my phone. And if I want to see what kind of specials there are for any wines that I might particularly like, I go online and there's a couple of small liquor stores they're nice liquor stores. They have 0 digital presence. So if I'm looking for a particular wine or a particular price point, I won't say forced, I can shop wherever I want, but I'm incentivized to go to that person who has a digital presence on my phone. So I think, and there's many, many consumers who think just like I do, this is the first place I go. I just got a new bike, $800 bike. Where did I find the kind of bike I wanted? Right here. And if I were looking I had a nice wine the other evening at somebody's house, so I wanted to see where could I purchase that wine. Well, the only places that popped up are those who have a digital presence. So if you don't have a digital presence, you're not going to get my business because that's what gets me to go to that liquor store. It's this thing. So I can only tell you from a Jesse experience, if you don't get engaged in some of these things, you're going to be left wondering where all your customers went.
What about, how do I know that you're getting my price and it's not some kid getting my price or somebody who has some Mormon getting my price or something like that? I think that's where you get in trouble. You probably get more enemies than friends, especially since I'm in a rural area, that if you start shooting that out to everybody, there'd be a big uproar. So how do you do it where it goes specific, other than your customer base?
Right.
I want to make sure I hit all the Texans that hit the San Luis Valley. Other than Facebook, I don't know how else to do it.
Can you answer that question? Because I can't.
Well, I mean, I think when we talk about general search, which the map functionality or just general Google search in itself plays critical impact with companies like Pointly and all these other ones starting to come out where it just shows where I can find that product. I mean, those are still going to be open to the general mass. A lot of that is focused on a geo radius. So whether it's on your mobile device or whether you're at home, they're able to be able to track that specific area. So you're able to see that consistency there. If you're wanting to go after and kind of target the general population, or going after a specific core target audience that you would say, simply, if you use Facebook and you use that effectively, if you just drop the pixel on your website, you can actually see who comes to your website and break out the demographic insights of that. And that's just a general kind of
Facebook will let you pick your age group.
correct, but also you're able to understand who comes to your site. So if you're pulling in a new consumer that may say, I'm looking for X specific wine, or I'm looking for X specific spirit bottle, there's a limited edition that I heard Johnny Walker release, like how can I find that? And you have that available on your site and it's pushed out into the networks. And I'm getting very much in the weeds now, but it'll allow it to start popping up on search engines. And then you could be able to retarget. The keyword retarget I didn't use much often. It is a commonly overused word, but it does effectively work for businesses, is to allow you to be able to get them and drive them back into your store or purchase online. Facebook allows that option to do it. I mean, we do it as a business. Sorry if you get some of our ads too much, but we do that as a business as well, to be able to make sure people who are interested or coming to my product or searching my product can still hit them.
Well, if political candidates use analytics, I mean, they target down to the household in a city block and a particular street, if that's, wherever they want their message to go. And they know how that street voted last year and how many women are on that street that voted, how many men. They truly take the analytics and turn it into a marketing tool for them. And they do a pretty good job at it, unfortunately. But I do think.
Yes, sir.
There's a fair jump between my database of customers and their products to getting something that targets them and sends that out. Is that a function you do, or do you know people who do that?
So I'm trying to make sure I understand the question. You have a big database of users and then their purchase behavior, and there's a gap between that? You're just
Well,
trying to
I have the purchase search what they buy.
Yep.
And then try to take that, analyze it, and make email out of it and say, these are people that buy pork, these are people that buy marijuana.
It's
That's a big jump for me.
The Engage platform is a piece that we're building towards developing, and the reason why we're doing that is for marketing automation, like you just said, is I have the analytics, I have the understanding, I understand the purchase behavior, but I don't know what to do with it. We're talking about doing an agency model. That's very similar to what you would see at a typical ad agency, and what that is it allows us to not only serve independent retailers like yourself, but become an extension of your marketing team to be able to help execute a lot of those pieces. Building emails, running Facebook ads, like you mentioned, that we can potentially put some surrounding areas around your store. There's a Facebook feature that you could serve ads that focus specifically around your brick and mortar store that you could do as well. So you can, as people on Facebook, and the reason why I say Facebook, I know some people are I'm over Facebook, but right now they do offer the best targeting capabilities, and you can gain a lot from them, especially if you have an email database list. You can run it in and be able to see lookalike models all based on that too. So there's a lot of ability there that allows us to target. It's tagged with Instagram as well. You guys are also in a visually leading industry. So there are some ways to be able to do that. Engage is the full picture for us. That's the engagement platform, and engages with the consumer. But we are in a position of offering services like that as well. All right, I don't want to steal time from Greg and other people, so I'm happy to answer any questions. Talk to more. You have a lot of material about our platforms as well, but there's a lot more that we could definitely get into. So.
And just to jump in, my name is Emily. I work with our retail partnerships team here at 3x3. I'm specifically
all types of companies. I'm not specific to retailing or specific to the liquor
We
industry.
need to be closer to the microphone, is all.
No.
Thank you.
Yeah, better?
Yeah, probably. They'll text me in a minute and tell me.
And we were having a conversation one day, and she was just asking my opinion about some things. I've had the privilege of working with Tom Noller for well over 20 years at Mayfair Liquors. And out of that kind of philosophical and far-reaching discussion on entrepreneurs in general and small business, closely held companies, and their success in dealing with the vagaries and pressures in the market, She asked if I would sometimes just like to, speak from my experience, because I've been fortunate over a very long career. Like I said, I'm an old guy, of working with hundreds and hundreds of companies and entrepreneurs. And so I said, sure, I'd be happy to do that. And rather than go through an 80-slide, death by PowerPoint presentation, I'd just like to present a few points that now it's more critical than ever that we think about. As small business owners, as closely held business owners, as retailers in the liquor industry, we really, especially in Colorado, we really need to think about some things closely. One little aside. Dennis, you need to be really proud of this young man, Matt. Usually he and I have to go somewhere else in the world to see each other, Vegas, New Orleans, something like that. And walking here today, you just live in Fort Collins. Why don't we ever see each other more? But I'm always impressed with the level of expertise and just downright willingness to help that exists in this industry. I mean, I was very pleased with what Brad had to say. Not that you need my approval, Brad. But what he's talking about with regard to personalization and delivery, these things are important. Somebody said a few years ago, one day, a company will come up with a better idea that will replace Amazon. Was that 3-4 years ago? Who do you think said that?
Somebody-
Jeff Bezos, the founder. So there's always evolution. And we have to be concerned with our own evolution. Change is constant, we all know that. And how we respond rather than react to what goes on in the marketplace really determines our success. So how do we tell the difference between those two things that are so closely tied? Well, if you wake up one morning and you say, I'm feeling a little out of sorts today, I think I'll stop by on my way into the store, stop by and see my doctor. So you go in and you tell her what's going on, and she says, wow, I'm glad you stopped in. I do suspect a little something, but I think I've got an idea of what's happening. I want to run a couple of tests, but let me give you this medication. I want you to take this for a week, come back and see me, and we'll know what's going on. If when you return, she says, you're having a reaction to this medication, you think one thing. But if she says you're responding to the medication, you think something entirely different. The challenges that we're facing, particularly the challenges that are about to come upon us the first of the year, require a response. Require us to take a look at our situation and make some decisions about who we want to be, how we want to live, what legacies might be involved in the work that we do. And I have always found that if you don't know where you're going, any road will do. And you cannot hit a target that you can't see. And that's why I've always known, always felt, always seen proven that planning, the simple practice of planning, is one thing that entrepreneurs don't do quite enough of, at least in a strategic way. We all plan from week to week, the regular operations of our business. But looking at a bigger picture, a wider picture, where we really want to go, that's something we can greatly benefit from. Statistics. Principles that we're talking about this strategic planning for entrepreneurs, if you will, yield this kind of result. 73% of the business owners and CEOs that apply this methodology report improved sales. A similar number, 73%, report improved process. Now profits. This is from surveying thousands of business owners. Now this 73% is not necessarily that, it's strictly coincidental. 58% who are owners report sleeping better at night. They report having more free time. They get to coach their sons or grandsons or granddaughters' little league or soccer team. They take more vacations. And a whopping 94% report that they have fewer thorny employee issues. All those things that just drive us crazy with regard to employees kind of get smoothed out. One complaint that frequently comes from is, man, I never realized keeping somebody for several years was going to cost me so much in vacation and all that kind of thing. So this is important stuff. And to the extent that we're willing just to examine it, and that's all I'm asking we do today, is let's think about this and how it might apply to us. This stuff is simple, but it's not necessarily easy. And the reason it's not easy is because it requires dedication, it requires discipline, it requires dedicating ourselves to just following a few simple rules when we start looking at where do we want to go? How do we want to respond to these competitive challenges? So the first thing we have to do is have an idea of what we want. And we call that a vision. Now, there's two components to vision for us that are entrepreneurs. And those two components are personal and company. Especially if you have partners in a business, you need to know what each other wants personally. This involves family, extended and immediate. This involves future, where we want to be in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. What sort of recreation we want to engage in. What we want to do at work. All this is contained within that. Because if we have a business and we're the sole owner, well, then our vision is automatically supported by the company vision. Crap. But if we have partners, we need to know that that company vision supports all partners' personal visions. Once we get past that point, we figure out what has to happen for that vision to become a reality. And that abbreviation conceptual on the second level will help us to decide what things we need to put in place so that that vision comes through. And by the way, a side benefit of this is once we know the critical success factors to the achievement of that vision, you no longer have to worry about the vision. You only need to worry about making those critical success factors come true. And by the way, there's usually one critical success factor that is more important than all others. That one gets called your driving critical success factor, or a DCSF. All right, so that's all well and good, but we still haven't done anything. We have to analyze what have we got to work with. I'm sure most of us here are familiar with the term SWOT, SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. It's good to know what we've got to work with. What are the strengths in our business? What are the strengths in our management team? What are the strengths in our product line? What are the strengths in our marketplace? Likewise, what are the weaknesses? Now, these primarily focus on our primary competition. It's not necessarily worldwide. Of our primary competition, where are we strong? Where are we weak? What opportunities do we have? And what are threats that we cannot control, but we can prepare for? By the way, you usually look for your opportunities by examining your weaknesses. Because if we can correct those weaknesses, Might even turn them into a strength. Okay, so now we have a general idea. We know what we want. Vision stay relatively firm over time, unless we have a big change of life or a change in a business condition. We kind of know conceptually what those critical success factors are. Now it's time to start doing some work. This is where we come in with goals. Now, goals need to be specific again. And you've all heard the term SMART. You might have heard of SMART goals: specific, measurable. They need to be things that are truly achievable. There needs to be a responsible party assigned to it. And there needs to be a timeline. Now, if you want to get really esoteric, I like to take SMART goals and make them smarter by adding an E and an R for enjoyable and rewarding. You can't always do that, but if you can, it's great. But these goals, using what we have to work with, are designed to make those conceptual critical success factors become a reality, which of course leads to the vision. Again, the goals are back to being specific. Most of the time when we identify what our vision is, we generally want that to happen when? 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Anybody?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow!
Immediately.
In fact, yesterday. We want it right away. And that's why we as entrepreneurial animals sometimes fail to complete this entire process. Because we're so busy moving. You know, life's not easy. And business is not easy. And all of the things that we have to respond to, or in some cases react to, pull us away from dedicating time to this function. But if we just step through it using these few simple guideposts, we will find that our success will be multiplied hugely. So what's the next thing that we do? Well, we take those goals and we develop strategies for them. Anybody want to take a wild guess as to what strategies are with regard to this conceptual versus specific? Don't everybody speak at once. Anyone? Just take a guess.
Action.
How about conceptual? Back and forth, back and forth. These are the things that have to happen for the goals to come true. And then we finally end up where we've been trying to go all our lives. Let's do something. Action plans and tactics, which of course are very specific, finally. And they too are SMART. Now, this simplified process is really a mirror of gigantic company strategic planning. But it is tailor-made for the entrepreneurial or closely held firm so that we can get our arms around it. Anybody here ever worked for a big company, multinational, very large company that did strategic planning as you did? Did they have a planning cycle every year? Was it October, August, or something like that?
Pretty much all year adjusting and then every fall quarter.
Okay. And was there ever an occasion where the plan just got put on a shelf?
Well,
All the time. But see, we don't operate that way. As entrepreneurs, it is inbred in us to, I want something to happen. Let's do something. And so following this very simple process, but following it religiously, will yield results you won't believe. Because by the time you work through this process, that future vision works all the way down to what you should do tomorrow to make it come true. Who should be included in this? Well, certainly any key managers that you have, anyone with authority in the organization, especially people that are going to be tasked with carrying it out. And you can apply this process to whatever you want to achieve in the business. Now, one of the things that Brad was talking about was personalization. Who thinks that they know 80% of their customers' names. We have one. 50%? 20%? 20%, we got a 20%. 15? 10? 3? There you go, finally. I knew you were good for something. Another study has shown recently that millennials are returning to retailing. Anybody remember seeing that or hearing about that? They are tired of being alone with their phones. Now, we don't know if this is a trend yet. But imagine what that might mean for someone who has a brick and mortar location. And we certainly need to be going where they are. He's absolutely right. But the future may brighten for us if this trend kind of catches fire. Anybody have dinner recently at their favorite restaurant? Come on, you can't hog the whole program. All right, John, you did. What's the matter? Was your stove broken?
Yeah. Exactly.
Anybody here drive something other than a 72 Pinto? Wouldn't it get you there?
Probably not.
Well, man, that's right. Maybe I might blow up on the way. Guys, we have got to stop and take a different approach. We have to put a fresh pair of eyes on what we're doing. And this is not beyond us. In fact, it is well within our reach. Anyone that has survived in retail today up to this point, especially in this marketplace, believe me, you have everything it takes and then some. But you must apply it. You've got to want to do it. And who are we doing it for? One of the reasons that profit can never be a critical success factor is because that's just a byproduct. If we do what we're supposed to do, profits are assured. And by the way, the entire world thinks that if you have anything to do in the liquor business, there's a brink truck that backs up to your store every night. You just shovel in the money. You are aware of that, right? Oh, if they only knew. So with this metamorphosis in our attitude comes a metamorphosis in our business. Your employees, in most cases, will only do 80% of what you do. Or if it has to be done perfectly, it'll take them 120% of the time. So if you happen to work the floor, if you're doing hand selling, if you're involved out there, get to know the people coming into your place of business. What are their names? They live in here? They native? Are their parents still with us? Do they have kids in school? What do they like to do for fun? Do they boat, hike, bike? This is not wasted time. In fact, it ties them ever closer to us because who do we know those things about? Friends, relatives, family. And who's going to shop with us more often than friends, relatives, and family? Not you, John. Is this making sense? Does everybody see the logic in this? Okay, so what are the results of taking this type of attitude in addition to what we're talking about here? How about organizations that enjoy month over month, year over year increases in markets that are challenged year after year after year? What possibly could a chain offer in the shopping experience that you can't? What possible personal touch can they give that you can't? We're talking today about thriving. Someone tell me the opposite of thriving. Matthew, how are you? Just sneak in. What's the opposite of thriving? Huh? Struggling? Close? Surviving. So if you have your business, you know, they put you on the evening news. Surviving retailer or thriving retailer. Begins with an attitude, begins with a willingness to do it, even though it might represent some of the change from what we do historically, because this is beyond just tactical stuff. It's also strategic stuff. We plan the tactical too. And if it's going to take us 6 months or a year to really firmly get this in place and start seeing the results, I promise you it's going to take us 6 months or a year, whether we start today or 5 years from now, assuming we're still around then. Bluff if you have to. But that's where we're going. That's what the future means for us. And we can come out on top. We can have an entirely different response. The other thing that I love about this industry is we cooperate together. We're not really, I mean, even people that serve kind of the same area are friendly competitors in most cases. That's an enormous, enormous benefit. Every time I hear Gene talk about the CLBA membership, I wonder, why isn't every licensee in the state a member? And even some people from out of state for just what's being done for good in the industry. I'll get off that soapbox. That's your job, Jim. If we combine all the opportunities that we have, and what 3x3 is talking about, definitely, we've got to get in, we've got to investigate what's happening here. What can we do? How do we personalize? How do we deliver? This is our future. But it starts with our own attitude. It starts with our own willingness to take charge of our own destiny. Let's not let this market happen to us. Let's happen to it. Fair enough? Now, any questions that anyone might have about planning in general or this specific process or the results? Yes, Jim?
My question is, in all your experiences, what would be another retail sector or even service sector or that has been faced with, if you will, similar challenges, and what do you think turned it around for them if it did?
That's actually a very good question. There are a number of initiatives going on with regard to malls, especially strip malls, and seeing a dwindling number of visitors as the entire population, as you heard Jane say, starts to turn to their phone. How do we drive people back in? Again, it's by offering something that they can't get in another place or creating an experience that they will thoroughly enjoy. And by the way, I have absolutely nothing against online sales. Love them, as a matter of fact, because in our case, someone said 5 times, who said their online, what did you say it was?
5 times my average basket in store.
Ours is more than twice. But yeah, it's kind of remarkable. This thinking will not revive, to answer Jane's question, buggy whips, blacksmith shops. Can't go that far. But to be able to look at your business through a fresh pair of eyes is being applied across all industries, even things like real estate. Certainly manufacturers are revisiting how they approach what they do. Mining in particular, we have a lot of talk about mining, and mining is old-fashioned and this and that. Well, 7 people, 7 can mine an entire mountain today. 7. Well, that came about through planning, through change, through automation. We don't know what great discovery might be coming down the road. But one thing we do know, if we keep abreast of the trends in our industry and what's happening with our consumer, what's happening with our customer, if we are willing to get involved in our communities and know the people that we're serving, we'll be a participant in that and not one left behind by it. Anyone else?
You're right, it's all about personalization. It's not just about the name, though. They want speed, fast service, and the number one thing that impresses, I noticed the most, is knowing their order, what they usually get. And I have several that just come back just for that,
Yes.
because we know them so well. It is so fast, right?
All of those things, yes, they are looking for that. You know, just because you get to know somebody doesn't mean you can give them sloppy service. No,
Customer service is number one.
it's number one. It's absolutely number one. But part of that is knowing who they are. Anybody have a favorite tire store? Why? Tire rack. Well, it's still your favorite. Why do you have a favorite tire store? Aren't tires tires?
I know their service.
You know them. You trust them. It's an experience, a necessary one. Okay? Guys, these are big things. These are not small things. And we ignore them at our peril. So, take a fresh pair of eyes and think about, how do I plan for my business? And again, that's more than just the week-to-week planning that we have to do, how we buy, what deal should I take? We have all of that. But look at your business as if it's a diamond, a big, fat, big, fat diamond, and you hold it up to the light, and you hold it very still, and you will see that light refracted through the facets, and they will show a certain array of colors. Quite lovely. If you shift that jewel just a hair, you get an entirely different display as the light is refracted in a different way. This is our job as owners, as leaders, as masters of our own destiny and those of our customers, is to continually turn the jewel. What can I do better? What can I do faster? What can I do more intimately with my customers? What's the benefit of your knowing so many of your clients?
They come back.
Give me a little more.
They're loyal to us.
What's the benefit for you? How do you feel about
I value their business.
You're better buyer for what's being sold.
it? Are they customers or friends?
Oh,
Both. It's not a crime. It's not a crime. And some people worry, ooh, that's getting too nosy and stuff like that. Well, if it's uncomfortable, you will know it, but this doesn't stop you from asking. How are you today? I didn't see you last week. Just hoping you were okay. Now, don't lie. You really need to recognize your regulars, but ask a little something about them. If you see them buying extra beer, hey, you having a barbecue this weekend? And they just might launch in store story. Yeah, my son's getting married. It's worth the time, guys and gals. Any other questions? Good. Well, anyone, I'd be more than happy if you'd like to discuss your individual situation. I am not looking for clients, but anyone who'd like to discuss their individual situation and how they get started in this, just let Jean know. She'll get a hold of me, be happy to give you a call, discuss whatever might be of interest to you. That's how I feel about this organization and about the help she has provided and this organization has provided to this community. Jean?
Do you belong to any professional associations or business associations yourself? You have your own business, it's certainly different than retail, but do you belong to associations of businesses or business groups?
I try not to at this stage of my life. I try to go.
Oh, you did?
I did. I was fortunate enough to be one of the founders of an organization some of you may have heard of, the Alternative Board, or TAB. Now in 20 countries around the world, thousands of members. And these are presidents, owners, CEOs of businesses, managing partners of firms. They get together once a month in an alternative to a highly paid board of directors situation. No legal obligation or anything like that. Nobody's obligated to take the advice. And they meet for half a day and they work on each other's problems, challenges, and opportunities. We founded it in 1990. And like I said, spread all over the world. And the reason it spread that way is because people do better. Iron sharpens iron. And the shared experience, the collective wisdom of people that are not in the same industry, no one's in the same industry here, this isn't a trade association, has proven of enormous value, because I might come up with an idea that absolutely won't work for your business, but it may spark an idea in you that will. So it's a cross-fertilization of ideas. Now, this general concept is called peer review. So I would highly recommend, if it's available to you, get involved with some peer review, and don't just look for people that are, in the liquor business. By all means, you need to talk with people in the liquor business all the time, but get some outside perspective of what other industries, what other companies, what other CEOs, what other owners are doing. How are they handling their people? What are they doing to their employees? What do they see as the outlook? What do they think about the economy? What do they like in service? Kind of revolutionize your thinking a bit. But above all, in whatever form it takes, act. Because in reality, what we all want is the same thing. We want to own a performing asset, not just a job. Thanks, guys.
I had the privilege in coming into 3x3 to bring technology background to a company that came out of the industry. And so our founders had started another business called Beverage in 2015, which focused on consumers and having the consumers get rebates from the suppliers, and it was very focused on building a lot of eyeballs and use of apps. And one of the things that we learned very quickly from that experience was that it's an expensive proposition and apps are going away, and that the technology of mobile is shifting very rapidly, consumer behavior is shifting rapidly, and the retailers were being pushed out of the way by all these online services trying to come in and take your customers and kind of become fronts to them, and then treat the retailers as essentially small warehouses for delivery. And because of our heritage, we came from a family that owned a number of stores up in Connecticut. And so we have a very close tie to making retailers, independent retailers, successful. And so when I was brought in last year to do the reset and start to build 3x3 Insights, we started from the premise that our job was to help retailers protect themselves in a future that is shifting very quickly. And it's interesting, because as I've learned and talked to a lot of retailers about their fears and the things that are scaring them, it's always Total Wine or Costco. And for me, Brad kind of hedged on this, but I firmly believe that Amazon is your biggest threat in the next 2 to 3 years. Because when they settle on an industry, they come in and just dominate the space they're in. I was doing internet commerce, e-commerce back in the 90s when they started, and people didn't think the bookstores were going to go away. And in 3 years, the bookstores were gone, right? And Barnes & Noble has survived, going through its own set of redefining its vision and all of its planning, but its survival has not been pretty. And I was just talking today about the same thing happened in sporting goods. There were, a chain called Ski Market up in the Northeast. I worked there in college too, and they're gone now too, because it consolidated to big box stores, and then it consolidated to buying online. So those things they happen rapidly. And our job, the people that we're bringing together, are people that understand enough of the industry to help you all bring the right tools to bear on the problem of keeping your customers happy and part of your store, and not migrating to Total or migrating online. That's going to happen faster than any of us expect. And we're building very quickly, not to be a data company, not to just hand you reports and say, here's what's happening, but to say, look, the way that you keep customers happy is to understand what they want and what they need, And the mantra that I've tried to build in this company is our focus is on helping retailers get the right product in the right customer's hands through the right experience. And in some stores, that means getting them in the store. It means using using email, using social media to have them show up in your store. In other stores and other locations, maybe it is bringing delivery into the store or bringing click and collect into the store. It really isn't just adopt it blindly, but it's think about the strategy that is best for your location and your store and build an appropriate way to do that using digital marketing, using social media, and using all of the data that you have in your stores. And your point of sales give you a lot of good data, but they only give you so much. And we help to bring more of that data to the surface so you can actually see things that are happening. For example, we just pulled some data today looking at basket adjacencies. One of the things that's a cornerstone of what we do is tell you that for this product, when it leaves your store, it's typically leaving with one of these 3 or 4 or 5 products predominantly. And if you start to know what products are moving together in the bags and you know that at scale, you can start to do things in your store to drive bigger basket sizes, to drive more frequent visits, to drive whatever those goals are that you have for your store. Without that knowledge, it becomes guesswork. And we have some of our sales team here, and I can tell you from my own experiences going out and selling, sometimes I walk into a retail and we say what we do, and like, well, I already know my customer. Like the human brain can only hold 7 things, so I don't know how you know all of your customers' wants and needs and baskets and keep all that stored in your brain and are able to respond to it right away. Right? I certainly couldn't, and I deal with data all the time. But what we try to do is take that intuition and couple it with a view to the data that you've probably never really seen before. And then to be able to layer market data on that so you start to get a picture, not just of what's happening in your store, but what's happening in stores that have similar demographics, right? It may not be that useful to know on the other side of Denver this is moving because the other side of Denver's demographic might not look at all like your customer base. But if you can look and see that, well, okay, in Chicago, in a similar demographic, in a similar size neighborhood, these products are moving, that might give you some insights to things you ought to look at carrying in the future because there's shifting trends and you can't be on top of every trend all the time. And so those are the kind of things that we believe help retailers protect themselves against the literal power that Amazon brings to data. And I'm sure that any one of us who searched on Amazon and found a product you didn't want to buy gets frustrated when you go then trying to use the internet for other things, and that product you didn't want to buy just keeps popping up in every ad on every site. Like, they know that if they do that enough, eventually you're going to give in and you're going to buy that product. And they are building those profiles and constantly nurturing those. What we're trying to do is put that power in the hands of people who have bricks and mortar stores so that you can keep growing bricks and mortar and that we don't have to go the way of the bookstores.
Mike, I have a question.
Yeah.
Will your data show, or your analysis, it's their data, will it show what the customers are searching for on their website? Does it, Jim, do you know on yours?
It can, it depends. Data are messy. One of our hardest challenges, every time we go into a new store, we have to not only figure out the point of sale system and how its data is set up, and often we know when we've done several instances, but every store has its own unique way of putting things into those point of sale systems. And so if you've coded Drizzly, for example, or Minibar, or anybody that's doing online for you, if they're coded in your point of sale so we can identify that as online, we can then look at that and we can look at differences in basket size. And in fact, it's not just that baskets are bigger, the kind of customer that's shopping, their basket composition is entirely different from the people showing up in your store. And that's valuable information.
And I wondered because I was searching for something, hearing loss on my computer.
Yeah.
And guess what started popping up on my phone? Hearing aids, hearing tests, hearing clinics, hearing studies, hearing. It just didn't quit. So I'm not saying you should inundate your customers with more information than maybe they want, but I didn't know whether your analysis of their data would show what they might be searching for on your website.
So we don't collect, like, that's, what you're talking about is Google and searching on Google, and then they permeate everything, and
Right.
suddenly you're seeing it other places. We aren't looking necessarily, the vision ultimately that I have for this business is we start collecting data about not just what they buy when they're standing at your counter, but what did they look at and choose not to buy? And what did they plan to come in for, but then change their mind when they got in the store? I mean, as we really get to our vision of a business, it's helping the retailers understand the complete customer. Right? So not just knowing what they buy when they come to your store, but what do they buy when they go to Best Buy? What do they buy at the grocery store? All of those things make up the complete consumer that each of us is, and knowing those things can help you all shape your offering to the customers more effectively.
So with 3x3, some of us here utilize other services such as City Hive or what you were talking about, Drizzly. So how does that integrate with that? Because we're starting to have dozens of options with technology.
Yes.
And for instance, we have one that so far I'm pretty pleased with in City Hive.
Mm-hmm.
How does it integrate that so we're not sending this push notification from this tech group, this push notification from this tech group, and on and on and on? How do they integrate together, or do you see that happen?
So yeah, City Hive's got a great offering, and there are aspects of what we're doing that competes with them. But the one piece that we have been focused on from the beginning is looking at your total business, right? So they tap into what you're moving online and how you're marketing online and what's coming through that channel. We took the approach of building the analytics from the ground up, of saying, okay, we'll go in and understand every transaction that happens at your counter, and we can give you tools to market to those. But even if we don't give you those tools because you're using City Hive to do email marketing, for example, right? We can help you understand the buying patterns that you want to use to drive those behaviors through City Hive.
That was my question.
Right.
Okay.
So we're an analytics-driven business to help you understand who your customers are. And then if you're using other services, you can feed that in as an input to the process.
So you're not necessarily trying to replace City Hive. It's a peripheral too that can make it more powerful.
Correct. And we hope to have an offering that's competitive, and then you're making a choice between that. But our analytics really sits quietly, under the counter in the back room, collecting the data from the point of sale system and building up those analytics so you can drop into Data Bar and look at the portal and look at the graphs, or we can deliver insights to you through email, through our own kind of advising. So we're trying to find the best mechanisms to help you as a retailer know what your data is telling you to do, and then let you use that in ways that make sense. And whether that's with us or with another firm, we want to make sure you're being successful doing that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the biggest thing I think we're all going to face here on January 1, 2019 is this beer conversion. I get 23 new competitors for my beer customer. And I think the thing I want to know the most is, the customer who only comes to my store and buys beer and only buys Coors and Coors Light, that customer is going to be very difficult to retain because they go to the grocery store. They have to eat. They have no choice. They don't have to come to my store.
And if they're buying mainstream brands, then
Yeah. But the customer who always comes to my store and every time they come buys wine, spirits, and beer, that's the customer I want to be able to get to, because every time they come, they buy all three.
Right.
Well, now why would they buy their beer somewhere else and come to buy? They're still going to make that trip.
Right.
And so that's the customer that I really want to reach. So that's the customer that I would be interested in you telling me.
Right, and that's where what I was saying about basket analytics will reveal to you kind of what are those patterns, and does that person who comes in and buys spirits and wine and beer buy particular kinds of beer? So maybe it's a question not of losing all your beer customers, but focusing your beer SKUs down to the ones that you can combine with other products that are unique offerings that the grocery stores aren't going to carry or have. And you're willing to see shrinkage in revenue, but see a lift in profit margin, for example, because now you're more efficiently planning your product offerings rather than having to carry the Coors Light in the bud that you know they're going to go, and you know that person's not buying other stuff. So having that visibility helps you plan profitability better. And I agree with the comment that that's not a critical success factor. It's really a measure of other success factors. But knowing that that's a measure allows you to then make adjustments in your business in such a way that you can control for, not going out of business because you're still profitable, even losing that segment of the customer.
I prefer not to lose any.
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. I mean, I don't, like I said, I don't come from this industry, but I've come from industries where one of the hardest lessons when I've worked with entrepreneurs is to understand sometimes getting smaller is better if you get smaller and more profitable in doing that, and then you can regroup and rebuild and figure out the new things. But sometimes that having that forced on you can create an opportunity to look differently at the business in a way that improves it. I know that's a counterintuitive, hard thing to swallow, but it's something I've seen work.
I'm missing something in this whole application. How do you identify the specific customer? Do they use their phone number or is it tied to their?
So separate the business kind of into two layers. The analytics layer, we capture data. We capture all the data that's available publicly. So we capture the receipt data. And if they use credit cards, that includes the first name, last 4 digits. So we're able to build a persona that we can then track over time, know that I came in 5 times where Brad is a first-time customer. It doesn't mean we can use that to market to them. They haven't opted in, but none of it's PII. So we're not exposing anything that isn't already sitting in the trash can or sitting at home in their trash can, right? And then we collect the scan data to create the basket profiles of what's in it. That lets us build not named customers, but customer segmentation around different things, whether it's the demographics of your store and then the frequency of customers visiting the store, or just simply different product combinations that get pulled together. The layer that is our marketing automation support to the store, that's where we get into we help you create a loyalty program. They enter their phone number. If you have one already, we hook our data into that so that you can use that, track that person with the number that they've entered and they've opted in to be marketed to back to their buying history, because if they've used a credit card, we've kept that trail. We can keep it going forward. And now you can begin to know things about their buying habits. And so to give you a simple example, when we've just started to beta test this, when they sign up, they go through and do a quick profile. What are your drinking preferences, right? But we don't stop there. As they come back to your store, every time they buy something, we look at what's in their basket and we adjust that profile. So if they said, I'm a bourbon drinker, it turns out they're buying more and more wine, maybe they've had something shift in their life, like a new girlfriend or a new boyfriend, and something has changed that they aren't identifying, but we can pick up in the data about what they buy. And we'll continue to build that so that you can use those shifts to market to them.
Okay.
I'm very interested, what's your macro view of, in this area, it's a little bit delicate with regard to the information that's contained by an individual. I'm sure you're familiar with the Target scandal a few years ago when women began to get, ads for baby vitamins. Because Target know I'm pregnant.
Right.
How do you feel about all of that for someone that may be, we're trying to attach, I guess it'd be more in the realm of a prospect. How far should we go? How do we reach out there without overreaching?
Yeah, the ethics of what we do is something that I spend a lot of time in the air when I'm flying thinking about, right? It's, I could very easily, if somebody that didn't have our value system was doing what we were doing, we could just be focused on getting more people to drink more and more and more, regardless of the health impact of that or whether they're alcoholics and we're pulling them back into something we shouldn't. The viewpoint we take is we're partners with the retailers who are at the ground level, who are looking at that person across the counter. And what we're trying to do is help you get the right product to them, not necessarily more product, but the right product for you from a profitability standpoint, the right product for the customer from what they want out of it. Because there's a lot of inefficiency in the 3-tier system. And if we can shake loose the inefficiencies, everyone can start to make a little bit more money and a little bit more money. And it's not about making people just drink more. And so from an ethics point of view, we spend a lot of time, and I spend a lot of time thinking about, how we position the business, the tools we offer to the retailers, how we message what it is we do in such a way that we're being, our value system is about integrity, and it's about innovating relentlessly, but it's also about, I'm an Eagle Scout, so my business values come from my personal values that are shaped around that, and I can't get away from this. And I don't know if that's what you're looking for.
I wanted to know your view.
Yeah.
We have time for one more question.
Sorry, I just wanted to know, so on the other end of the data, would it have the ability to show somebody who hasn't shopped in 30 days or 60 days and has
Certainly.
a slowing trend of shopping period?
So certainly with the marketing platform layered in, as you can look at your customers who signed up, and you can see that, if their frequency of buying is slowing, that maybe there's a reason. You could also see shifts in the buying that might indicate that they've started going to the grocery store for beer, right? If you can pick those indicators up in a few days or a couple weeks versus 30 days or 60 days, that's a whole lot of lead time you can have to change behaviors and pull them back.
Well, I'm wondering if it flags something like that rather than get a lot of customers.
Yeah.
It's hard to find those.
Those are the kind of insights that our business is pushing to you. It should be pushing to you. It shouldn't depend on you to go in and look at a graph and go, oh, these things are changing, right? That today, we're young, we're early into this. Today, those are graphs and we can help you interpret that. But as we grow the number of stores, we grow into the millions of records a year. We have the ability to use machine learning to find those things and say, look, hey, this is the 5 things you ought to look at this week. You've had 20 customers of this product suddenly slow down or drop off. And that kind of insight in a timely way, because we're updating every night, every other night, we're giving timely insights to the business so you can react to it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Michael.
it.